iSeeNcode is an observation app that encodes things you see, hence its name, iSeeNcode. This is a universal app that runs on both iPads and iPhones. You make observations by tapping elements in the coding tree. If an element has a disclosure indicator, tapping that element reveals a secondary screen containing its children. Tap what corresponds to what you are seeing in the context you are observing. When the list of choices remains on screen after you select one of its items, you are in an element that permits multiple selection, meaning that you can select more than one item if you see more than one of those things happening. When you are done, tap the back button to return to the menu. The codes you tap display in their parent element. The text area lets you type or narrate things you see happening that are not represented in the coding tree. Simply tap in the text area to enter comments there. The timer alerts you when it is time to start a new observation, which you create by tapping the Add button at the top of the Observations menu. At the bottom of the coding tree's home screen is a cloning option. Tap Clone when you want to make a copy of the current observation. Near the bottom of the coding tree is a threading option. Use threading when you are making observations in a complex situation that has many things going on at once. When you tap threading, you will be prompted to select a color for the current observation. The colors you choose appear in the background of the Observations menu, thereby enabling you to see the threads. Threading codes also appear in the spreadsheet containing the data you are collecting. Counters let you count things using the stepper. To increase the count, tap the plus sign. Tapping the minus sign decreases the count. Tapping the settings icon takes you to the Sessions tools. Here you can modify the session's metadata, which describes the session in which you are making the observations. To create a new session, tap the option to choose or create a different observation session, then tap the Add button. There is no limit to the number of sessions you can have. At any time, you can view the spreadsheet containing your collected data. Tapping View Spreadsheet displays the data grouped according to your schema with multiple codes per cell. Tap View Widescreen Spreadsheet to see the data with separate cells for each code. To export the data you have collected, use the Actions button to save the spreadsheet on one of your cloud drives. You can also email your data by tapping the option to email the spreadsheet, or you can make the spreadsheet available on your desktop through iTunes file sharing. iSeeNcode lets you create new schemas and thereby modify the app to make observations in any situation where you can define categories for what you are observing. Before you can modify the schema, you need to enable the editing function. To do so, run the Settings app on your iPad or iPhone. Scroll the Settings menu down to reveal your apps and tap the icon of the iSeeNcode app. Slide the switch to turn on the editing function. Now the coding tree has a ribbon on each element. When you tap the ribbon to insert or edit an element, the element editor will appear. Use the on-screen controls to set the element's title and enter the code you want associated with this item. When the data get recorded, this code will become a column in your spreadsheet. Instructions are built right into the element editor. When the editing switch is on, each metadata element has an editing ribbon. To edit the metadata, tap its ribbon to make the metadata editor appear. Use the on-screen controls to make a text field, date picker, or time picker. In the label field, enter the name you want associated with this item. When the data get recorded, this name becomes a column in your spreadsheet. Instructions are built right into the metadata editor. When you want to make a new schema from scratch, use the New Schema tool, which loads the placeholder template you see here. Simply tap the ribbon to insert, edit, delete an item, or add a child. To change the schema's title, go to the Schema settings and tap the option to change the schema's title. When the editor appears, tap the title field and enter the title you want the schema to have. Then tap Save to record it, or tap Cancel to ignore the change. To change the timer settings, tap Timer Phases to make the timer editor appear. Use the controls to modify each phase's settings, which consist of the number of seconds, color, and message seen by the user when the timer fires. To add another phase, tap the Add button. To delete a phase, tap the trash. When you are finished, tap Done. To show or hide the text area, go to the Schema settings and tap the text area title. When the editor appears, use the switch to turn the text area on or off, or tap in the title field to change its title. To create or delete counters, tap Counting in the Schema settings to make the counter editor appear. To modify a counter, tap its title field to change its title, or tap its code field to change the code that will represent the counter in the spreadsheet. To add a counter, tap the Add button. To remove a counter, tap the Trash. When you are done modifying the counters, tap Done. Threading is an option that enables observers to color code observations when multiple events are happening at once. To enable or disable threading, tap Threading in the Schema settings to make the threading editor appear, then use the switch to turn threading on or off. Cloning enables observers to make a copy of the current observation. To enable or disable cloning, tap Cloning in the Schema settings to make the cloning editor appear, then use the switch to turn cloning on or off. Clearing is an option that enables observers to erase all of the codes recorded for the current observation on the current branch of the coding tree. To enable or disable the clearing option, tap Clearing in the Schema settings to bring up the clearing editor, then use the switch to turn clearing on or off. To facilitate the creation and dissemination of encoding schemas to teams of observers, iSeeNcode contains features for cloning, switching, exporting, and importing schemas. When you tap the option to clone the schema, the cloner asks what you want to name the clone. Then it makes a copy of the current schema under this new name. Now you can proceed to edit the clone and make it into a new schema while the original schema remains on your device. At any time, you can use the Schema Chooser to switch to any schema on your device. Each schema can comprise any number of sessions you create on your device, and each session can have any number of observations. Use the option to export a schema when you want to move a schema to another device. If you have a team of observers, for example, who will all be using the same schema, you can export the schema to a storage place from which your observers can import it onto their devices. There is an import option on the Choose a Different Schema tool. This import option enables you to import a schema from storage places such as your iCloud Drive, Dropbox, Google Drive, or OneDrive. Whenever you need help, tap the question mark in the upper right corner of the Session Settings screen. iSeeNcode is free to install and take a look around on your iPhone or iPad and modify the default observation. If you like what you see and choose to begin using it for making your own observations, there is a small charge for observations called a consumable. At the bottom of the Observations menu is an observation meter that shows how many observations remain in your observation pool. You buy observations through an in-app purchase in packs of 10, 25, 50, or 100 observations each. The more you buy at a time, the less they cost. For specifics about pricing and for iSeeNcode support, browse to www.udel.edu/fth/iSeeNcode.